Welcome to the Creative Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lopez Jr. Follow us on Twitter at CreativeCoach47 and on YouTube at Creative Coaching Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks a bunch for listening. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be on with you.
I'm so thankful that you're with us, Coach Jones. To me, it's been a long time coming. You have these, I do these interviews and have these interactions with coaches, and I've always had you on my list, had you on my board, my recruiting board. And so I'm just so thankful that we're able to get it done. Now, Coach, I'm going to start off the show like I do every podcast, in that, how were you introduced to the game of basketball?
Wow. Yeah, you got to go back to, when you're a little kid. My dad played in high school, and he would tell us all these heroic stories about him scoring 25 in a game and how he started when he was a ninth grader and bumped out seniors. And so it started then, and I had an older brother who played a lot, and we had a court in our backyard. I remember the day it went in, the cement that went down, the black pole that went up, and the dust court that we had, and we used to have to water it down so in the summertime it didn't get too dusty. So it's one of those things that basketball became a religion in our neighborhood and was part of who everybody was.
Yeah, no kidding, Coach. Especially coming from a background with your family, and you get to kind of come through those dues being paid out on the dirt court. I remember having the same situation. My dad, he knew how to weld, so he welded the pole, and he got an old backboard, put it together for us. And yeah, there was a little bit of a slab, but not enough for dribbling, just dirt. So our handles were down because we were dribbling on dirt a lot, Coach. So exactly. I do understand that completely now, Coach. I want to ask you about your experience in the game when you played, as far as you being coached. What was your experience with the coaches that you had coming up?
Well, it was interesting. Like, today's game is so much different. Everybody has their workout guy. Like, there was no working out when we were kids. You had a high school coach or a junior high coach, and I played a little bit in CYO, so that was fun. And growing up with coaches, they became really important to you. Mr. Call was my first coach. After CYO, he was a sixth grade coach. He started a little bit of a league where we had 4 games when I was a sixth grader. So that was great. And but you admired those people. He was my gym teacher, and also, that first coach that you had. And then from him went to Mr. Kent in 7th and 8th grade. So again, he was another guy that you think about, and he just passed away recently. So it was just these men in your life that, helped bring the game to life for you, and that believed in you, because, you had to make the team. So there were tryouts that you had to go through. And, that was a lot of fun. It told you a lot about yourself and where you fit in with everybody else. And it was just a way of learning the game.
Yeah, no, Coach, I like what you're talking about, CYO. That's how I started the game as well, was that. And those people in your life, Coach Call, Coach Kent, man, they kind of shape how you see the game too. And your dad, and those things, those type of people in your life really help to influence how you're going to see the game moving forward. I mean, you can have your favorite players, you can have your favorite teams, things of that nature, but just the pure enjoyment of it, because it's with people that you love and you care about, and also care about you.
No question.
Has a lot of meaning. Now, Coach, I want to ask you, as far as being influenced to go into the coaching profession, who or what influenced you to do so?
Well, I think my brother Joe was the biggest influence on becoming a coach. So after I graduated college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, when you're 21 years old, you have no idea what you want to do. Like, at least I didn't. I was the first person in my family that graduated from college. So it wasn't like there was this roadmap about what to do and how to do. So what ended up happening for me is I graduated and I was looking for a job, and I've always been gifted with the ability to communicate and talk to people. So I went into sales naturally afterwards, and I was really successful. But during that time, my brother Joe, who's 1 year younger than me and who's the head coach at Boston University, he was coaching a 7th and 8th grade team down in Long Island, and I was living in Connecticut, and I would drive down on weekends to try to help him with his team. I did that, a half dozen times, and I enjoyed it. And then from there, I was selling computer products for NCR, and I was really successful. I had won a few trips to, go overseas in Hawaii and stuff like that. But, it wasn't something that, I felt great about doing. And the only person I was helping was myself. So I had an opportunity to go back to Albany, where I went to school and coach basketball and get a master's degree. And at that time, I just fell in love with coaching. And I wouldn't say there wasn't a coach that influenced that, other than my brother, because he gave me my first vision into what coaching was all about, and to what it was like to coach people, and the gratification that you got from being around young people and trying to help them become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, no, it's reciprocal at the end of the day, right? You put into it and then you get something back in return, even though that's not what you're doing it for.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what helps us to cope with some of the stress as well throughout the years of coaching, is that we know at the end of the day, those young people that we coach and whoever we're teaching and being there for, something good's going to come out of it over a period of time. It doesn't seem like it at the moment sometimes, because some of these knuckleheads will look at you sideways and other ways and talk back. But at the end of the day, you're doing something that's bigger than yourself, like you talked about.
Well,
And that's
I get so much more out of coaching than I give, I would suspect. It's just a great profession to be. It's a great profession. It's a terrible business right now, but it's a
yeah,
great profession to be involved with. You're helping young people. And the thing for me that I enjoy most is watching my guys grow up and what happens with them after they leave me.
yeah,
Uh, my one of my favorite times of the year is around the holidays, when I get holiday cards and I get to
yeah,
see the families grow, and I get
yeah.
to see, a young man's 6-year-old become 7, and his
Hmm.
8-year-old become 9. And that's just
Yeah.
the growth of that, and the families around what I do is pretty awesome.
That's great stuff, Coach. Yeah, it's not four, it's 40, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of people. You talked about your ability to communicate and being a people person, and that goes a long way in the business, like you said, because it's like Kevin's told me a couple of times. You got to love the game, but learn the business, because right now it's pretty treacherous. And for yourself, having the longevity that you've had has been amazing. And so, yeah, throughout the 26 years of coaching, you've seen a lot of those players come and go, but still come back, and that has to be rewarding. Now, Coach, I want to ask you about like a welcome to coaching moment. Like, okay, now I'm not a player anymore. Here it is. This is my team. But wow, I can't believe this just happened. Have you had one of those coming to coaching moments, like, wow, I can't believe now I'm a coach?
Yeah, it happens every year. With my first year coaching, my team was 17-3, and I thought coaching was easy.
Yeah,
It's just one of those things that you have, and sometimes you pinch yourself. I think probably some of the biggest moments that we've had are going to the NCAA tournament. I remember, getting on the bus for that first trip to Providence when we played Baylor in the first round, and then jumping on a private plane to fly out to play LSU. It's just those experiences are just extraordinary for you and your team. And this year, having a situation where we had our cheerleaders and our band there, and those kids were all excited and geeked out about being at the NCAA tournament and getting on the jet with us. So there's so many wonderful things that happen and occur over the course of your career, and it would be hard to name just one. There's just so many of them.
yeah, that's fantastic, Coach. You're able to share. There's a shared experience because there's a shared vision and a shared mission, and that's fantastic.
Mhm.
All the stakeholders involved had a great time, and that's truly rewarding because you're sharing the wealth, so to speak. Now, I want to ask you, Coach, about uh, our approach as coaches, right, is usually transformational, right? We want to have a transformational situation take place. But I want to ask about what percentage of coaching now is transactional?
Mm. Well, not much at Yale.
Okay.
We don't make transactions. We don't pay our players to play. Everyone that comes to Yale, they have to pay for their undergraduate education depending on where their families are wealth-wise. It's all need-based aid. So we
Yeah.
have some kids that pay the full 90 some odd dollars or so, and some kids that don't pay any. And then we have varying people in between. So there's not much of a transaction at Yale, and that's what really makes it special.
Yeah.
At the end of the NCAA tournament last year, or this past season, John Poulikitis and Bez Mbang were up on the podium with me, and they both were in tears because of the journey that they shared together over 4 years. It's hard to do that over 1 year, to get to know guys really well and be a part of them for the rest of your life. But when you have a 4-year growth period with another young man or other teammates, that becomes really special. And
Yeah.
I got the chance to see that firsthand through their tears. which was really hard. But it was one of those things that made me feel great about what we were able to build with those two guys and their teams over the course of their 4 years at Yale.
That's great stuff, Coach. I think it's kind of a throwback situation where you're now like you don't have to be so re-recruiting your kids, so to speak,
Mhm.
because of NIL and situations like that, or them being poached as well. Maybe that might take place too. I don't know, but here
Yeah.
again, it's not the norm. Now, Coach, I want to ask you on that note about success because you're talking about things that are so much more real and gratifying and meaningful. What do you consider true success, Coach?
Wow, there's a lot of things that go into success. Being able to have a goal that you set with a group of men together and to
Yeah,
go out and to work toward that every day and then to obtain that goal,
yeah,
that's a true level of success. But
yeah.
another level of success is the try in it, the
Okay.
try to do things the right way, to try to come together and to build something special. That's what this is all about. I mean, I think right now in today's game of basketball, we miss so many lessons that are learned through college athletics. When you build something, the sacrifice that it takes. There aren't too many people that want to sacrifice anymore.
For sure.
Every single team that I've had over the course of my time at Yale, someone's had to sacrifice, and everybody's had to sacrifice something, some more than others. But that's what this is all about: learning about yourself. And at the end of the day, like I have a son that plays tennis,
Yeah.
and this is pretty funny. We went down to Florida, and there was when he was like 12 or 13, and there was a coach down there that told me that my son has a chance to be a top 10 player in the world. Well, okay, that there are 100 there out of the 100 tennis players in the world right now. There are only about 8 to 10 that are American, 8 to 12 that are American. So to
Wow.
say that my kid was going to be top 10 was, he was blowing smoke. Um, but that's not why I had my son in tennis. I didn't have him in tennis so I can go sit in the box at Wimbledon or Roland Garros and watch him play. I had my son in tennis so he could learn about himself, to
Yeah.
learn about what it's like to fail and to pick yourself up and to play and fight through. That's what those are lessons that are learned in athletics. Tennis is a little different because you don't do it with other people, but you learn so much about yourself. But in basketball, you can truly learn about yourself and others, and that's the true version of success.
That's fantastic, Coach. I think you just helped me to have kind of a paradigm shift in my approach to my own children and how they do things and what they consider success. That's one thing, but what I consider success for them is a whole other thing. And so that just adds to it. And I appreciate you saying that. I really do, because my daughter had a track meet today. She was qualifying for state. I fell short by literally a foot,
Yeah.
and so she had to learn something. 18 years old, about to head to college. So now I have something to give her. You know what I'm saying? That's why I appreciate that so much.
So now from that, so when she goes home, okay, I lost by a foot.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, does she become determined I'm not going to lose by a foot again?
yeah,
If somebody's going to beat me, like they're going to beat me. They're going to beat me bad.
yeah,
I'm not going to lose by a foot. So I'm going to work that much harder to
yeah,
become better and more successful. And then once you get to that point and you realize that, you learn so much more about yourself. And even if you fail, well, you're going to have to beat me again.
yeah,
My dad would tell me all the time when he was a kid growing up, and life was tough, and he used to hustle in a pool hall when he was a young man. And he would tell me stories about how guys would have to beat him every day.
hmm,
Like it's not like you beat me Tuesday, I'm coming back Wednesday. You beat me Wednesday, I'm coming back Thursday. To the point where he was beating them and they didn't want to play him anymore. So
yeah,
it's one of those things that you have to learn. And sometimes the best way to learn, and then sometimes the only way to learn is through defeat. Because
yeah,
that's when you feel that pain that your daughter felt today. And
yeah.
I feel for her, and I know she'll come back and be ready to go next time.
Yes, sir. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's about tomorrow now. It's not about what happened today. Even though she can learn from all that, she'll lick her wounds, and we'll move forward tomorrow. So that's
Yes, sir.
fantastic stuff, Coach. Thank you so much. Now, I want to ask you on what you attribute your longevity in the coaching business to, since it is so volatile, because you talked about it earlier, how kind of raw it is right now. So your longevity, Coach, what can you attribute that to?
Well, let me first start off by saying I'm a very privileged and lucky man. I've been coaching for 33 years now. I've been at Yale for for 26, and I was at Albany for 5, and at Ohio University for 2. So for about 33 years, I've been a coach. 26 as a head. My longevity at Yale is a lot of it is because of my ability to understand where I work.
Yeah.
We have challenge. You have challenges no matter where you coach. There are going to be some challenges. So let's just say, for instance, I go in the gym and we're about to start practice at 4 o'clock. So I get there at 3:45. Let's just say, and let's say the hoops aren't up because the volleyball team practiced before us, and the guy who runs the facilities didn't have somebody to put the hoops up. Now, I've been at Yale for a long time and I've been pretty successful. So I could make a stink. I could send a nasty email and yell at people. But what is that going to accomplish? The hoops aren't going to get up. So I could do that, or I could call the guy and say, hey, listen, let me help you get the hoops up. Or
Yeah.
what can I do to help you? So understanding where you work is really important. I think that that's one thing that, thankfully for me, I have a really good understanding of that, because you want to build great relationships with people. And I don't want anybody fearing me or worried about James Jones. I want them to be a partner with me. I want them to feel good about everything that I do, because what happens is on those occasions where you're going to act in a negative way toward people, they're just waiting for you to lose so they can get rid of you. I've never been that way to react that way. Everything for me is done logically, and it doesn't make sense for me logically to get mad at somebody who is pulled in too many different directions to do the job that they need to do properly.
Understood, Coach. I like that. That's fantastic. Understanding where you work. And I think that's helpful for anybody who's listening or watching is like, you have to consider where you're at, consider all the dynamics involved, and also the people that you're working in concert with and collaborating with, not just yourself. Because I guess once you get to be a head coach at any level, there's this certain amount of, well, that's somebody else's job. I want to delegate everything, and that's to be understood as well. However, you can still get in there and not get mad about it, and just like you said, have some common sense, contact the right people, and get it done. So that's fantastic, Coach. I really,
Let me add to that too.
yeah,
Like my longevity is also based on the people that I've had around me.
yeah,
We've had tremendous players, but
mhm,
to get those tremendous players, I've had to have tremendous assistant coaches.
yeah,
And Matt Kingsley's been with me for about 20 years. Justin Simon played for me. He's been with me for about 14, 15 years. And Brandon Sherrod has been with me. He played for me and he's been with me for, this is going on his 3rd year. So we've had great longevity with my assistant coaches. We haven't had turnover. That's been brilliant. But I've
yeah,
also had Al Paul was really good for me. Tony Carberry is really good for me. Rob Sinderoff, Ted Hotale, Curtis Wilson, all great assistants. Ray Crossman, Anthony Goins, all been really good assistants to help me be where I am. And now, with my staff, they've been with me so long, I have to give them so much to do so they don't get bored, and to give them some ability to feel good about their job that makes my job a lot easier. We
yeah,
had a workout this morning, and Coach Kingsley ran the whole thing. I was in there just like a butterfly floating around, adding it here or there. But I didn't have to. For me, I don't have to do everything to feel like this is my show and this is my team.
right,
I give people responsibility. Like I want to make sure that my assistants are vested in what we do. And the best way for them to get vested is to give them opportunity to do some of the fun stuff, to put in some of the offense, to work on some of the defense, or a lot of the defense or a lot of the offense. That's really important.
fantastic, Coach. And I think everybody who's listening and watching, who is an assistant or a GA or whatever, can really appreciate that, because you're giving them their chance to, like you said, have some fun with it, because that's what the dream was, right? To be on the court, stomping their foot, putting things together, having some autonomy, putting their fingerprints on the program, and that's what you're doing. So that's fantastic, Coach. Now I want to
Let
ask
me
you.
let me
Go ahead.
add Matt Elkin to this, because if Matt hears this and I didn't mention his name, he's going to shoot me. So Matt Elkin and Rob Hoey, there was a couple of guys there with my Dobos as well. So I don't want to leave anybody out. Had a lot of great people work for me.
No, we'll make sure that I'll tag them in this when I put it on Twitter or something, Coach,
There you
to
go.
make sure they hear this. Now, Coach, I want to ask you about mentorship, because a lot of us, like you're talking about, you didn't get there alone. The longevity of your career isn't just attributed to you being so cool, so slick, so great, so winning. Yeah, there was other people involved, so you didn't get there alone. Now, mentorship kind of goes along those lines. How important is mentorship to you, Coach?
Well, I think for me, like I want to be a mentor to others. I want to give people something I didn't get. I worked for Doc Sowers, who I played with and played for in college. He was my first guy that I worked for. Taught me an awful lot about the game of basketball. I learned a lot from him. Then I worked for Dick Kuchin at Yale. And then I worked for Larry Hunter at Ohio University. But none of those guys or coaches that I were able to draw from and talk through and go through a lot of different things with. So for me, a lot of what we've done has been through the vision of myself and my assistant coaches, and I lean on them a lot for things that we want to do with our program and giving them a voice to help. But me being a mentor to other people is something that I seek out, and I want to help some of the young guys to get opportunities because coaching basketball is a brilliant, brilliant profession. It's so much fun, and it's a hard job in a lot of ways, but it's so much fun. And I would recommend it to anyone, especially if they have the stomach for how the game is being administrated at this point.
It's a good stress, is what I tell people.
Mm,
I would rather be stressed out on a basketball court than behind a desk, you know, answering 5,000 emails a day and trying to make a deal.
yeah.
It's a lot. It's a good stress. Now, Coach, I want to ask you, kind of along the same lines, how important is it to prepare the next generation of coaches for this business? Because as it changes, it'll continue to change. How do you go about, like you're saying, mentoring coaches? How do you go about preparing the next generation if you can?
Well, again, so the guys on my staff, I give them opportunity to do everything a head coach does. So my assistant coaches have done, they've helped with scheduling, they help with budgeting, they've helped with obviously recruiting. So they've done a little bit of everything to put themselves in position. So once they move over that 12 inches to the next seat, they're
Yeah.
going to be ready. I think that's the best way to help bridge the gap and help those young guys to get opportunities. And it's interesting for me. We've been really successful at Yale especially over the last 10 years, and we've won 4 of the last 5 tournament championships that our league has had. And my guys, I'm surprised that somebody hasn't tried to poach my assistant coaches because they're really, really good. Matt Kingsley, Justin Simon, and Brandon Sherrod, they're all really, really good coaches. And I'm just happy that for me personally, that they're sticking with me and they're still here. But I would love them to have an opportunity to take their own job at some place as a head coach or go someplace and help somebody else to be successful as they help me.
It'd be just a matter of time, Coach. I'm sure. Just a matter of time. The weather's landscape comes and goes. People come and go. It's just a matter of time. Now, I want to ask you, Coach, about what you've learned about yourself throughout your career, because we talk about learning from losing, learning from, success or failure. What have you learned about yourself throughout your career, Coach?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, Mike. I don't know if I've ever been asked that one. I've learned a lot about myself over the years. Like when I first started coaching, I was a little crazy. I had for a while I had no buttons on my jackets because I would take my jacket off and throw it down in anger because something wasn't working out well. And
Yeah.
I learned really fast that didn't do anything but make me look silly. That didn't help us. That wasn't helping us win any games. He
Yeah.
threw off his jacket and broke the buttons on the end of his sleeves. Everything I do now is based on logic.
Yeah.
I'm very reasonable about everything that goes on. I think through situations. Like if you ever watch one of my games when I coach, I'm calm and I'm cool. Like I'm not yelling and screaming at people because all that stuff's got to be done in practice, right?
Yeah.
If I have to yell at you and scream at you in a game to try to get you to do the things that you need to do, I don't know how successful we're going to be. So for me, I don't have a high stress level when game starts. Like I rarely, if ever, sweat at all. And when I do, I'm really surprised that I have at times because that's just not who I am. Like
Yeah.
if you think about things logically, it's a game of basketball, guy.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna lose sometimes.
Yeah.
Even when we're better, we're gonna lose sometimes. We're gonna win most of the time when we're better, but we're gonna lose sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So all you want to do is go out and play your best. So when I close my eyes at night, I know what it's supposed to look like. And I go to work every day trying to make sure it looks like that. And if you do that, well, you've succeeded. And if you do that more often than not, well, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. That's fantastic, Coach. It's not even never let them see you sweat because they never will, right? I guess.
No,
And and yeah, the whole thing about throwing the coat. I used to do something similar when I was much younger,
yeah.
and I would, wouldn't pick up chairs and throw them like Bobby Knight or anything, but the thought did cross my mind a couple of times.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
at some point it was just like, what am I doing? I'm making a spectacle of myself, and it's about me. And
exactly right.
it's not about what we need to do. And I love what you said about, if I've got to yell at you, that means at the end of the day we didn't prepare and we didn't make the most of our time together at practice.
Yep.
Because if I have to run up and down the court with you and coach you at every possession, man, that's a lot of work. That's way too much work
Well,
for that.
yeah, it's hard to be successful when you have to do it that way.
Yeah, for sure. I don't envy the guys that like doing that. It's a bit dramatic, and it's probably annoys players too, I'd imagine. But we'll leave that for that, right? Now I
Yep.
want to ask you, Coach, about your support system. How important is your support system, given that you give yourself to the game during the season and in the off season because it never ends, right? How
Yep.
important is your support system throughout all that?
Well, again, that's, you got to have people helping you out, right? Like none of this is done by yourself. Nobody that looks at anybody that wins a national championship or is any successful, or any people that aren't that successful. You have to have good people trying to hold you up and trying to make your job easier and make your life easier. So I have a great support system with my assistant coaches and my family, and that's really important to be able to lean on people and to be able to go in a room with your staff, and guys are all feeling the same way about something and knowing that they're there to help you out. And it's not about me and it's not about them, it's about us. So
Yeah,
that's what's really important when you have a group of guys who understand us. We do something symbolic every day as a team. When we get together, we get in the middle circle. And I always talk about guys having 2 feet in. All
yeah,
right, so you have 2 feet in the circle. And if anybody's not in the circle, I make guys get in the circle. Now we got to maybe have to be a little closer to guys, and guys are sweating a little bit after a couple of hour practice. But we do that for the symbolism of being together and understanding, like metaphorically, you got to have 2 feet in this if we're going to be any good.
yeah. That's fantastic, Coach. Habits, those habits that cause a certain amount of synergy
Hmm.
and togetherness and buy-in, because there's nothing better than, here again, all stakeholders being 2 feet in, because you're gonna need everybody. Although only five guys can be on the court, metaphorically speaking, everybody can be on the court in a
Exactly.
way. So that's great stuff, Coach. Now I want to ask you about mental health and emotional health. How important is that for you and your coaching staff?
Well, about for me personally or for my players?
For you, your players, your coaching staff, everybody involved in your program.
Well, I wake up every morning happy. I
Good.
can't I can't remember the last time that James Jones didn't wake up happy, because you're 6 feet above the ground, and I
Yeah.
have a tremendous job. And what I do, I can't wait to get to my office. I wake up every morning, I work out. First
Yeah.
thing, that's the way I get my days. I make my bed, then I go work out. That's
Yeah.
first what I do every day. But in terms of mental health for my staff and my players, we obviously have people in place to help and answer questions and support anybody who needs it. I think as a leader, it's really important to be able to gauge the kids on your team, and you can look in guys' faces. It's like most guys don't have a great poker face in terms of how they're feeling. I can
Yeah.
look at most of my guys and know what their day's like before practices even start. I
Yeah.
remember we were playing North Carolina down there. We had either shoot around or practice the day before, and I had one of my players who we were doing some transition stuff, and he had missed 3 shots as poorly as anybody can miss 3 shots. Like they didn't hit the rim, hit anything. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, I was just about to snap, right, and get into this kid. And then I looked at his face and I knew something was wrong. So I gave the team to my assistant coach, Kingsley, and I pulled the young man aside and what's going on? There's something's not right. What's happened? And he told me that his daughter's grandmother was going to pass away.
Wow.
He had just gotten word. So he didn't share that with me, but you could see it on his face, something was up. So understanding about the young men in your stead and trying to get them the help that they need is really important to just so they can be the best versions of themselves. And, like I said, we have a lot of people in place to help. And I would suspect that at this point in time, most universities do.
That's fantastic, Coach. And I hope that's the case. We kind of assume that that does happen, but I really hope it does, because these next generations coming up are definitely going to need that mental health assistance and emotional health as well, for all kinds of reasons, whether it's social media, whether it's the dynamic of their household, or just the world politics,
Mhm.
the nature of society. So yeah, I
Yep.
hope so. I really do hope so, Coach. Now I want to ask you, what is your why, Coach? Why do you do what you do?
Oh, I mean, because I enjoy it. And like, again, like I started this off saying how lucky I was. I
Yeah,
didn't intend to be a basketball coach. I kind of lucked into it. And, I got snake bit that first year. And I do it because it's kind of who I am now.
yeah,
Like, like here's a great story for you. I went to one of the kids' weddings for my team. Matt Minoff got married in Florida, 15 years, 20 years ago, whenever it was. And I remember being on a bus ride. We're going to the rehearsal dinner, and another player was on the bus, and his name is Mark Lovett. And Mark was saying, "Hey, coach this or coach that." And one of his classmates who was on the bus, he goes, "Why do you still call him coach? You're a grown man." And then I turned around, I looked at the guy. I go, "What is he supposed to call me, James?" So I just feel like that's kind of like my moniker and who I am as a person. And, I do it because it just feels right. It
right.
feels right to do what I do. It feels right to try to lead a bunch of young men to try to, again, I keep saying this, become the best versions of themselves and to have that shared experience that you'll have the rest of your life. Like I look at the teams that I've had over the last, my 26 years at Yale, and none of them are going to forget the good and the bad and the ugly of what they went through
Yeah.
as a Yale basketball player and as a part of their education. I think that that's what's really important too, that we lose sight of how important athletics are to the overall education of people.
Yeah, fantastic. And I like what you're talking about, the bus rides, the locker room, those practices where you come in after a loss and you're just looking at each other. They'll never forget those things because even the victories, like we said, we learn more from the losses, which is obvious, but even the victories, those sweet spots and those moments that nobody can take away from you because you earned it, not because
Yeah.
it was given to you, but you earned it. That's great stuff, Coach. Now, my last question is always about legacy. And it's not that we're sitting around thinking about, oh, I can't wait to have a statue or whatnot. Obviously, not that. Because, man, I would be afraid to see what that would look like. Somebody could really muck that up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
but I would ask you, Coach, what would you want to be said of you when your career with the game is all said and done?
Yeah. Just that he cared about the people in his stead. Like, what I learned so much from one of my former athletic director, Tom Beckett. He just said some things because I was young and impressionable, especially when I first started at Yale. And he told me that hey, kids don't care how much you know till they know you care.
Exactly.
That's it. That's it. Like that guy cared about me. That guy believed in me. That guy loved me. Right. I think that's what's really important. I tell my kids all the time, I love you guys every single day. I don't always like you, but I love every single one of you and every day. And that's kind of true to form. You just want to let people know that, hey, that guy cared about me. He cared about his kids. He worked hard to make them better. And again, the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. That's kind of like what our job is. And it goes beyond basketball because all the little things you learn in life through basketball, there's all these little lessons that you don't even know you're learning them until
Yeah.
you have these epiphanies when you get older, like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that's why. Oh, okay, all right, I get it. I get why he was yelling at me now. I get it now.
Yeah.
So
Coach, I appreciate your time so much. You've added value. And here again, I want to shout out to Kevin Sutton for putting this together for us and introducing us. I just really was really a great one. So thank you for your time and appreciate you coming on.
Mike, you be good, and always you need anything, I'm your guy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care, sir.